At the recent Sambhashana discussion on the Rupee Crisis, organized by Transparency International Sri Lanka at the OPA auditorium in Colombo, 3 professionals spoke about the current economic crisis in Sri Lanka, bringing different views and analysis of the state of the economy into focus. Opening the discussion, RMB Senanayake stated that the authorities who were pursuing an infrastructure-led development thrust must rethink their course of action.
Infrastructure development program. Now, for this development program, the government has to import quite a lot of imported goods like machinery, transport, then even and for thermal generation of electricity they needed oil. So a considerable amount of imports the oil price had increased a lot, and so the amount of imports increased considerably. In fact, and soon we had a trade deficit. The trade deficit, that is the difference between the imports and the export. The trade deficit in 2010 was $4,825 million. In 2011, it jumped to 9,710. You can see it's more than double. The problem basically is this problem will continue unless we can restore some balance between import in the current account, the balance of payment. Now, how did the deficit arise? Deficit basically arises because, not to trade problem, because of our expenditure is more than our income.
Dr. Prasanna Pereira in his presentation stated that the volatility in the exchange rate wasn't a crisis as it would be temporary. He noted, however, that how the government and the central bank manages its policies would be a critical factor if things are to settle down.
I do not see a crisis in rupee due to the economic conditions and the relations we have as a country. There are 2 examples. IMF is ready and they think that we are in the correct path. Then the investor confidence will encourage. That soon, tomorrow, I don't know, maybe already, the country's sovereignty rating may be upgraded by Moody's or other agencies. And the second reason is China will invest in Sri Lanka definitely. So therefore, this only 2 reasons I will focus due to my time constraint. There will be no crisis in rupee. This is my worrying factor. The situation can be influenced by the surprise policy decision of the government taken to remedy the current issue. Simply speaking, there won't be a rupee crisis in the short run as long as the central bank of this country follows these positive tendencies and refrain from adopting harmful popular decisions.
Dr. Harsha De Silva warned that the Sri Lankan economy was in a crisis due to factors such as a credit-based and import-driven consumption boom and the politicization of the monetary board.
Part is over, growth is going to come down, consumption will fall, the feel-good factor will disappear to an extent. So, because in order for the interest rates not to go up, then you have to put more rupees back into the marketplace. So when you withdraw rupees by selling dollars, to hold the interest rates down, you have to put more money back into the system. And that is what you saw, what economists usually refer as printing money, or what you see in the central bank's reports of its holding of treasury bills.
During the last 12 months, the Sri Lankan rupee exchange rate depreciated 16.80% against the US dollar. In late April this year, the figure stood at a record high of a little over 133 to the dollar. The 3 economists had different takes on the situation which has befallen the Sri Lankan rupee and the way out of it. However, what they all agreed on was that real productive growth hadn't gathered momentum, and the government and the people were living beyond their means. In order to bring back the rupee to a stable footing, the panelists presented different solutions, from the need to adjust economic policies, the need to rebuild economic resources, to a change in ideology. Perhaps all these things need to be looked at. However, as one panelist pointed out, in terms of what needs to be done immediately, Sri Lanka needs to somehow find sufficient reserves to stabilize the exchange rate.
What I think is at the moment, most priority is that we have to get sufficient reserves, to rebuild the reserves, maybe beg, borrow or steal from somewhere and get the foreign exchange to have a sufficient amount, at least $1 billion. We'll have to get it from somewhere. I was told that they're trying to get it from China or IMF or wherever it is. And with that, stabilize the exchange rate, where we cannot have an exchange rate that keeps going on and on. For example, importers won't, these people don't import goods. They're not sure what's going to happen.